instructions. All the participants are requested not to use the present now button at any time during the lecture. Also keep your mic at mute so that there is no disturbance. The last 10-15 minutes are kept for questions. You can note down the questions. In the meanwhile, if you have any questions, you can write it in the chat box. In the Google Meet, in the right hand side, you can see the chat box. So you can write it in the chat box, or you can also write it in the WhatsApp group. We are just going to enable the WhatsApp group. So you can write there also. Thank you.
सौरभ जी, should I start?
सर 2 मिनट और वेट कर लेते हैं. 6:30 का टाइम है.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Sir, we may start.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Good evening, friends. First of all, I should thank Mr. Saurabh Agrawal for the nice words and kind introduction. And thanks to Saurabh ji again for organizing such a good program, which benefits not only the speaker, not only the audience, but the speaker also. Because we are all law students, we are all students throughout the life. जब तक हम पढ़ते हैं तब तक हम सीखते भी हैं. So it's my pleasure and privilege to have the discussion, and you have done a very good job. The program, the certificate course which we are going to conduct, it is in 8 parts. I think 8 lectures will be there. Today we are having a general overview of the Income Tax Act, what we understand from the various terms given in the Income Tax Act. Tomorrow we will be having a webinar on penalties, prosecutions, fees, interest, and then Vivad Se Vishwas scheme. In the next week, of course, we are going to have capital gain, very tedious subject. So many queries are always there on the capital gain taxes. On Sunday, we will having tedious provisions and startup taxation. The next week, on 19th of December, a very interesting topic I am going to take, that is succession planning. And it's a very important topic in the today's world, especially for the practicing chartered accountants or the professionals doing practice, how to suggest your clients to have a succession planning and what is the private trust, what is HUF, what is will. We will discuss all the aspects, and also the deeming provisions under the Income Tax Act. Then on 20th December, we will having a complete session on the charitable NGOs and charitable trust. On last week, we will be having a set off and carry forward of losses, and then finally, final day will be the general presentation on how to file the income tax returns, what is the procedural aspects, and of course the question answer, what we have learned in the past 7 sessions. So this is the scheme of the course we are going to conduct. And friends, because I know that all of you are very learned peoples, learned, qualified personals. So we will try to have some in-depth analysis of various terms, various provisions, and how to use them practically. And it will be a kind of interactive session. You can write in the chat box. I will ask certain questions to you during the presentation, and I expect people to respond immediately so that I can understand that you are at least listening to me and you are getting the things done. So let us start the today's topic. It's general overview of the Income Tax Act. Friends, as you know, there are certain terms, and can I ask you a question? What is the difference between Finance Bill, Finance Act, Income Tax Act, and Income Tax rules? Can anybody tell me what is the difference between Finance Act and Income Tax Act? As you know, there is a yearly exercise where the Honorable Finance Minister presents a Finance Bill on 1st February. Earlier it was 28th February. Now it's 1st February now. So can you tell me the difference between Finance Bill and Finance Act and the Income Tax Act? You please write in the chat box. And in the meantime, let us start with the history of the Income Tax Act. Do you know when this Income Tax Act was launched in India? Though we are reading Income Tax Act 1961, but the history starts 100 years back. It was 1860 in India when first time the tax were levied by the British government, and after it was the first revolution, first independence movement of 1857. Then in 1860, it was not income tax basically, it was with some certain other names, and the first full-fledged act, Income Tax Act, was coined in 1922. And after the independence, a committee was formed under the chairmanship of Shri Mahavir Tyagi ji, and the committee recommended certain provisions, and this Act 1961, which we are reading, which are following, this Act was passed by the Honorable President, and it was accepted by the Parliament. And since then, there is a lot of amendments, lot of changes, and as you know, friends, for the last 10 years, there is a talk of direct tax code, DTC. 2-3 times attempt has been made. First time by Mr. Chidambaram in 2010, then by Shri Narendra Modi ji, and the group which was formed to recommend the changes in the Income Tax Act 1961. They submitted their report last year, as you know. But by one reason or another, government didn't accept all the recommendation of that committee. So many changes were proposed by that committee. But certainly on the corporate tax fronts, as you know, in December 19, Honorable Finance Minister has reduced the corporate tax from 30% to 2 new slabs were given, 22% and 15%. Okay, now I came to the finance bill. Mr. Rajan Bansal has given finance bill is presented in the house. After acceptance, it becomes the Finance Act. Bilkul sahi baat, 101%. And you know, friends, Finance Act it doesn't only have the provisions of Income Tax Act. All the commercial, whether it is custom or central goods and service tax, they are being amended. The Finance Act amends the provisions of the Income Tax Act, meaning thereby that every year you have a Finance Act. And surprisingly, there is an act which is brought by the Finance Act only. As you know, in 1994, service tax was proposed by the central government, and no service tax act was coined. There is no terms like service tax act. You know why? Because it was brought through Finance Act 1994. What I want to point out that every year we have a Finance Act, and that Finance Act amends the existing provisions. And sometimes certain provisions like equalization levy, we don't have any provisions of equalization levy in the Income Tax Act, but still it is being levied. So that is through Finance Act 2016. Meaning, what I want to say, that Finance Act is as important as Income Tax Act. Whenever we are going to study the scheme of income tax, not only we have to study the Income Tax Act, but Finance Act also. And as Rajan Bansal has pointed out, Finance Bill is presented by the Finance Minister, and after the acceptance, it becomes the Finance Act when it gets the assent of the President of India. But then what is income tax rules? What is income tax rule then? Is it a part of Income Tax Act? Of course. आप ये समझ लीजिए कि अगर इनकम टैक्स एक्ट शरीर है तो इनकम टैक्स रूल्स उसकी आत्मा है. अगर इनकम टैक्स रूल्स नहीं होंगे, whenever you read the act, in certain sections you will find as may be prescribed. And where is the prescription given? It is given in the income tax rules. As you know, there was an act coined in 1988, Benami Property, Prohibition of Benami Transaction Act 1988. And surprisingly, the act was passed by the parliament, but rules were never framed. And that is the reason, while 1988 Benami Act was never couldn't came into the picture. There was an act in 1988 of Benami Property Act, but because the rules were not coined, rules were not framed, the Benami Act was like a dead body. In November 2016, when Honorable Prime Minister, he brought this demonetization on 8th November, you know, before passing that, Prohibition of Benami Act was passed and rules were coined. Meaning that whenever you read the Act, Income Tax Act, the rules are equally important. You find the details of the income, various provisions, how to operate that provision, how to have that provision. And another important term is, of course, circular and notifications. Do you know the difference, sir? What is circular and what is notification then? Please write in the chat box. मैं देखता रहूंगा, पढ़ता रहूंगा, ठीक है? And friends, as all of you are qualified persons, whenever a finance bill is presented, there is a memorandum explaining the provisions. That's very important part. Please read that memorandum, and in that memorandum, the minister, the finance minister, he or she that explains why we are bringing this provision. So there are certain terms now: Income Tax Act, Finance Act, Finance Bill, memorandum explaining provisions. And another question: how the tax is being levied? You know, there's an Article 2265 of the Constitution of India that says no tax can be levied without authority of law. सौरभ जी, आप अनम्यूट कर लीजिए अपने आप को, सौरभ जी.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So Article 265 says no tax can be levied without authority of law. And there is a 7th schedule. Very interesting thing. You know why agriculture is not being taxed in the income is not being taxed in the Income Tax Act? Because in the 7th schedule, as I said, Article 265 says no tax can be levied, no tax can be charged with the authority of law. And there are three lists in the 7th schedule. One is the central list, another is the state list, and third one is the concurrent list. Item number 82 of the central list that gives the power to the central government to levy tax on the income. And item number 46 of the state list that gives the power to the state government to tax agriculture income. So though there is a power to tax the agriculture income, but state government has never used that power. And another question, can anybody tell me where the rates of income tax, rate of income tax is given? रेट्स हमें कहां से पता चलते हैं कि रेट्स ऑफ टैक्सेस क्या रेट्स होंगे? जैसे 2.5 लाख तक हम कहते हैं नील इनकम है, उसके बाद में 2.5 लाख से 5 लाख तक 5% है, उसके बाद में 20% है, या उसके बाद 30% है 10 लाख से ऊपर. तो वेयर दैट रेट इज गिवन, how to charge the income tax, where the rate are given. I got an answer from Perfect Accounting, Schedule 1 of the Income Tax Act. But this is half answer. The full answer is rates of income tax are given in the Schedule 1, Part 1, as well as in the Income Tax Act itself. As you know, there is a special rate of tax under Section 111, 112, 115, special rate of tax. Long-term capital gain is being charged at the rate of 10% equity shares. Short-term capital gain on listed share will be charged at 15%. Why I'm asking this question? As you know, friends, there is a new slab of taxation proposed by the finance minister in the budget 2020 for individual and HUF. We were not going to have any deductions or exemptions. Then section 115 BAC, that this rate is not given in the schedule. This is given in section 115 BAC, jahan par you can have a new tax, you can have a new regime of taxation for individual and HUF, where you will not get any deductions or exemptions, no deduction except ATM, ATJJAA. Similarly, new sections has been coined for corporate tax, 115 BAA and BAB, where a new manufacturing unit which was established after 1st October 2019, and that starts manufacturing till 31st March 2023, will have a corporate tax of 15%. While the existing companies can go from the present rate of 25 or 30% to 22%. You know, in the present structure, the companies having turnover less than 400 crore are being charged at 25%, while more than 400 crore is being charged at 30%. But under section 115 BAA, a new tax rate of 22% has been given under section, as I said, 115 BAA. And the assessee has the choice to shift to the new regime. But once you shift to the new regime, then you cannot go back. So these are the rates given in the schedule as well as in the Income Tax Act. The special rate of tax are given in the Income Tax Act. Rates. Okay. As I said, in the finance bill, there are Schedule 1 of the finance bill. It has 3 parts. Part 1 that gives the rates of the income tax, and Part 2 that gives the rates of the TDS, and Part 3 that gives the rates of advance tax for the current financial year. For example, Finance Act 2020 that gives Part 1 will give the rate of the income tax to be charged for the assessment year 2021, while the Part 3 that gives the rates for the advance tax. And next year, the Part 3 will become the Part 1 of the Finance Bill or the Finance Act. Now, how to read the Income Tax Act? दैट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट. हम लोग क्या करते हैं जब इनकम टैक्स एक्ट पढ़ते हैं तो हम सेक्शंस हेड वाइज पढ़ते हैं या सेक्शन वाइज पढ़ते हैं या हम किसी भी चैप्टर में चले जाते हैं. बट if you read the income tax act from section 1, then you will see a scheme has been given, a scheme of taxation has been given कि कैसे कैसे you have to go ahead from section 1, then section 2, chapter wise, then what is the basis of charge, section 4 and 5, then comes section 6, that is residential status. Why it is so important? Residential status, as you know, in India the tax is being charged not on the basis of citizenship but on the basis of residency, and that is given in section 5 कि आप रेजिडेंट हैं या नॉन रेजिडेंट है, आपका टैक्सिंग स्ट्रक्चर उस पर डिपेंड करता है. बट इस बजट में दिस फाइनेंस एक्ट 2020 फर्स्ट टाइम हैज इंडक्टेड a section 6(1) capital A where the tax is to be levied on the basis of Indian citizenship. If you are Indian citizen, then you will be deemed resident. I will come to the detail when I will discuss the residential status. Then there is a scope of total income. Acha, one more thing. Can anybody tell me what is taxable income, what is total income, and what is gross total income? Whether this term gross total income or taxable income, generally we use this term taxable income, but whether there is something like taxable income, total income, taxable income में क्या फर्क है? What is the difference between taxable income and total income, and what we understand by gross total income? Rajan Bansal ji, but surprisingly there is no term, no definition like gross total income or taxable income in the Income Tax Act. No term is there, no definition is there. हम कहते हैं ग्रॉस टोटल इनकम, टैक्सेबल इनकम, ग्रॉस टोटल इनकम, टैक्सेबल इनकम. सर ऐसी कोई टर्म नहीं है ग्रॉस टोटल इनकम की, कोई डेफिनेशन नहीं है पूरे इनकम टैक्स एक्ट में. इन इनकम टैक्स एक्ट वी हैव टू थिंग्स. वन इज इनकम that is given in 2 clause 24, what income includes, and another is total income. The definition is given in 2 clause 45. No term is like taxable income. कोई चीज नहीं होती taxable income. हमेशा एक बात याद रखना, आप पूरे एक्ट में जब भी पढ़ेंगे the tax is levied on total income. आप किसी भी सेक्शन में चले जाइए वहां पर टोटल इनकम का इस्तेमाल है. और टोटल इनकम हैज बीन डिफाइंड एज आई सेड in 2 clause 45. I will come to the definition. So first, what is the general things? I have given you a PPT and I requested every member to go through that PPT. Already might you have gone through it. So if we start reading the Income Tax Act from section 1, section 2 gives the definition. Then section 4(5) gives the scope of income and chargeability of tax. Very important section. Everybody should read section 4 and 5 first. Then section 6 that gives the residential status. 7, 8, 9 gives the income deemed to accrue or arise in India. Then section 10 is exempt income. And exempt income is not the part of the total income. Then section 11, 12, 13, special chapter for the charitable trust. And friends, when we will read this charitable trust, please understand this 11, 12, 3 is a complete statute in itself. When section 11, 12, 13 is in operation, no other section, whether it is 28, charging section 56, or no other section is then applicable. Once you are out of that 11, 12, 13, then every charging section is being covered. Another important is head of income. Head of income. Why head of income? Section 14 gives the head of income. Because friends, as I said, there is a 2 sections, section 4 and 5. Both are very important. That gives the scope of the total income. And there are 5 heads of income. As you know, there is salary, then income from house property, then capital gain, then income from other sources, and business, of course, income from business and profit. And every head starts with a charging section. देखिए स्कीम ऑफ टैक्सेशन क्या है, सेक्शन 5 ने आपकी टोटल इनकम को चार्ज किया, उसके बाद में हेड वाइज फिर एक चार्जिंग सेक्शन है. सेक्शन 15 चार्ज द सैलरी इनकम, सेक्शन 22 चार्ज द इनकम फ्रॉम हाउस प्रॉपर्टी, section 28 has the charging section for the business income, section 45 gives the charging section for the capital gain. What is the chargeability in that section? You have to come into that particular head of income. Why it is so important? I give an example, leaving behind the technicalities कि कैसे जाएगा या नहीं जाएगा. For example, if an assessee is engaged in the letting of house property income, commercial property को let out करता है, ठीक है, depending on the various other factors, this letting can be charged in 3 heads. One, of course, is income from house property. Another is business income, if you have the business of letting, then, and third is of course 56 में है कि अगर आपने सब letting किया तो that will be under the income from other sources. लेकिन तीनों में अलग अलग ट्रीटमेंट अलग अलग है. अगर आपको इनकम फ्रॉम हाउस प्रॉपर्टी में वो चार्ज हो गया रेंट, तो you know what you get the deduction, you get 30% of the standard deduction of the rent received. Then you get only interest on the borrowed capital and house taxes paid. No other deductions are being given to you. But if the same income is chargeable under the business head, if the same income is charged under the business head, then you get all the deductions given in section 30 to 37. Any expenditure for the business activity will get the deduction. You will get the deduction of depreciation or rent, insurance, जो भी आपने खर्चा 37 जो भी खर्चा किया, if it is your business. But again, if it is your income from other sources, then of course you will get that depreciation. And section 57(3) says only that expenditure which is being spent to earn that income. It is not the case with business. Section 37 is general section where any expenditure for the business, whether that result into income or not, but 57(3) says that any income, any expenditure to earn that income will be allowed. तो एक हेड ऑफ इनकम से अगर एक इनकम के अलग अलग हेड में चला गया तो उसकी ट्रीटमेंट अलग अलग हो जाती है. सिमिलरली, if the income is being charged under the head income from house property, you know, हाउस प्रॉपर्टी की जो इनकम है उसका लॉस 2 लाख तक आप एडजस्ट कर सकते हैं, बाकी आपको कैरी फॉरवर्ड करना है, एंड नेक्स्ट ईयर इट विल बी एडजस्टेड इन द इनकम फ्रॉम हाउस प्रॉपर्टी ओनली. बट इफ इट इज अ बिजनेस लॉस, इफ इट इज अगर आपको बिजनेस पर ट्रीटमेंट हुआ सेम रेंटल इनकम का, देन द डेप्रिसिएशन, यू नो, डेप्रिसिएशन कैन बी कैरी फॉरवर्ड इनडेफिनेटली, और बिजनेस के लॉस भी आप 8 साल तक कैरी फॉरवर्ड कर सकते हैं, और दूसरे हेड से भी एडजस्ट होते हैं सेट ऑफ हेड कैरी फॉरवर्ड में. कहने का मतलब कि एक इनकम का जो करेक्टर है वो कौन से हेड में चार्जेबल होना है, कौन से इनकम कहां पे टैक्सेबल होनी है, दैट इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. किसी भी हेड ऑफ इनकम को पहले आपको तोलना होगा, समझना होगा कि वेदर दिस इनकम इज चार्जेबल इन दैट हेड और नॉट. हम क्या गलती करते हैं, हमें कोई हेड समझ में नहीं आता तो हम उठा के रेजिडिटी में डाल देते हैं 56 में. सर, दिस इज ऑल्सो नॉट पॉसिबल. जैसे मैंने बताया कि स्कीम कैसे है, सेक्शन वाइज चलना है आपको. फर्स्ट यू हैव टू कीप दैट आउट कि नहीं, ये इनकम फ्रॉम हाउस प्रॉपर्टी में नहीं जा रहा, ये सैलरी में नहीं जा रहा. As you know, for charging the income under the head salaries, there has to be a relationship between employer and employee. अगर employer-employee relationship नहीं है, तो income cannot be charged under the head salary. Then it has to go to the other head. But first of all, as I said, it should be income, 2 clause 24. It should come in the scope of the total income. Then only you have to choose the head, and then if it is chargeable, we have to चार्ज इन द पर्टिकुलर हेड जहां पे उसको जाना है. अगर आपने उसमें चार्ज नहीं किया, द होल स्कीम, द होल थिंग विल गेट डिटीरियोरेटेड. फ्रेंड्स, यू कैन राइट योर क्वेश्चन इन द चैट बॉक्स. आप क्वेश्चंस लिखते जाइए, ठीक है. बीच बीच में जिसको भी क्वेश्चंस है, you can write and I will answer during the. After the head of income, as you know, income from other sources ends on 59. Then there is clubbing provisions and revocable transfer 60 to 64. When the income of other persons is being clubbed with another person's, and there are three cases where the income is being clubbed: in case of minor, in case of spouse, in case of daughter-in-law. Or if it is a case of revocable transfer, where you have transferred the income but you have not transferred the assets, or the assets is being transferred without adequate consideration, then it will go to, then the clubbing provisions will come into the picture. Another important is section 68, income from cash credits, undisclosed sources. As you know, after demonetization, there was a change. There was a change in section 115 BBE. What happened when demonetization was declared on 8th November 2016? Saurabh ji, very interesting. The existing provision was under section 115 BBE.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sir, ठीक है ना? Everybody is getting ना?
Yes, sir. Actually, क्या है, अगर मैं अपना माइक ऑन रखूंगा तो वो दोनों को रिकॉर्ड करेगा, वो दिक्कत हो जाएगी.
अच्छा, ठीक है सर, प्लीज आप म्यूट कर लीजिए. हाँ. Then friends, what happened on 8th November 2016, demonetization was announced by the Prime Minister of India, and the existing provision was that if there is undisclosed income from an undisclosed source, then you declare and pay 30%. This was section 115 BBE. तो लोगों को लगा कि साहब ये डीमोनेटाइजेशन हो भी गया, तो मेरे से लोगों ने पूछा जी क्या करना चाहिए. मैंने कहा कुछ नहीं करना चाहिए, बैंक में उठा के पैसे जमा करवा दीजिए और 30% टैक्स दे दीजिए. तो ये तो जनरल वीडीएस तो चली रही है 115 बीबीई में, वहां तो आपसे सोर्स बताना नहीं है आपको, तो सोर्स की तो बात ही नहीं की सरकार ने. तो अगले दिन सीनियर मिनिस्ट्री ऑफिशियल्स ही गिव द स्टेटमेंट कि इफ anybody will deposit the cash or undisclosed income, then we will charge penalty up to 300%. And friends, it was erstwhile section of 271C, as you know, कि जहां पर 300% पेनल्टी लगती थी if there is a concealment of income. लेकिन जब बजट 2016 आया था, that provision was replaced by section 270 capital A. तो बड़ी दिक्कत आ गई कि आप 271C का तो इस्तेमाल नहीं कर सकते. Then the government of India on 15 December 2016 make an amendment in section 115 BBE. Okay. And then this section 115 BBE read with section 68. Now it's very draconian provision now. As you know, now if any income which is undisclosed, we say cash credits or unexplained investments, if during the search or during the assessment, or unexplained investment expenditures, if they are found, then you know friends, special rate of tax under section 115 BB is levied at the rate of 78%, 60% tax, and then surcharge 25%, 15, meaning there was 15%, and then cess at the rate of 4%, 78% tax charge is being levied. And this section, when coined in December 2016, it has a retrospective effect for the financial year 16-17. So I can, okay. After that, as you know, then there is a set off and carry forward of losses. You can set off the losses under first you can set off the losses within the head, then interhead adjustment, and then you can carry forward the losses. That is 71 to 73. Then deductions from the total income, section 80, 80 to 88. Then double taxation avoidance agreement. If your income is being taxed in the source as well as resident state, then we have a double taxation avoidance TT, where we can have the credit of the tax paid in the other jurisdiction, and if income is being taxed in India, because as you know, the income of a resident Indian, for a resident Indian, he has to pay tax on the global income. Then income tax special rate, as I said, in section 115, 111 to 115, special rate of tax is given. As I mentioned, 115 BBE, 115 BAA, BAB, BAC, BAD. Then income tax authorities, we will check what are their powers, what is the jurisdiction, what is the faceless assessment. And another is then return and assessment, section 139 to 158, regular assessment and income escaping assessment. We will come to that. Collection and recovery of taxes, TDS provisions, then appeals and revisions, then settlement commissions, penalty and prosecutions, and last is the annual information report. So this is the scheme of the taxation. Every chapter has to be read step by step. You should go ahead step by step. Then you can understand the Income Tax Act, because the sections are so arranged, chapters are so arranged. अगर चैप्टर्स को कहीं प्लेस किया है तो उसका एक कारण है. जैसे मैंने बताया कि अगर सेक्शन 11, 12, 13 को सेक्शन 14 से पहले, हेड ऑफ इनकम से पहले प्लेस किया, तो उसका कारण ये था कि उसकी इनकम हेडलेस होती है. If the income of a charitable trust are not being charged headwise unless and until he comes out of section 11, अगर वो section 11 में exempt हो रहा है तो the income will not be charged headwise, क्योंकि head उसके बाद start हो रहे हैं section 14 के बाद. Now friends, as I said, section 1 that gives this act, where this act extends to whole of India. But as you know, in case of Sikkim, can anybody tell me कि सिक्किम में टैक्स लगता है, इनकम टैक्स एक्ट लागू होता है या नहीं होता, या नॉर्थ ईस्ट में लागू होता है कि नहीं होता? नो. तो आंसर इज नो, बट सरप्राइजिंगली आंसर इज यस. ये कंफ्यूजन आया था जब डीमोनेटाइजेशन हुआ था, तो लोगों ने नॉर्थ ईस्ट में बड़े प्लेन गए थे, वहां पर पैसे ले लेके और वहां पे लोगों ने जमा करवाया था और ये सोचा था कि वहां पर लागू नहीं होता. सर, लागू होता है, लेकिन स्पेशल एग्जम्पशन इज गिवन टू दीज गाइज. देखिए, एप्लीकेबिलिटी इज देयर, but exemption is also there, and exemption is for especially in case of northeast and the Ladakh region. The exemption is given to the scheduled tribes there only, not to anybody, not to everybody. In case of Sikkim also, the income earned in that state is being not taxable, otherwise it become taxable. अगर सिक्किम का आदमी बाहर में आके कोई इनकम कमाएगा, that will become taxable. उसके जुडिक्शन में जो इनकम उसने कमाई, that is not taxable, that is exempt from tax with certain writers. Now I will come to certain important definitions. And chargeability of the tax, that depends on the person. You know, there is two terms, person and assessee. हम कहते हैं कि every assessee is a person, but every person is not an assessee. Why it is so? Because in 2 clause 31, person has been given, 7 kind of persons are there. In 2 clause 31, there are 7 kinds of person. But assessee is if any tax or proceedings or any sum is payable against that person, then he becomes the assessee. Person is everybody, whether it is individual, HUF, AOP, BOI, company, firms, all 7 kinds of persons are there. But he will become the assessee if any proceedings, if sum is payable, if he comes under definition of total income. Otherwise, unless and until, he will not be an assessee. Another important definition is income, 2 clause 24. And this income is an inclusive definition. If we see the definition of income whenever there is two kinds of definitions in the Income Tax Act. One is the inclusive definition, and another is this means. When the definition start with SSE means or this thing means, that is an exhaustive definition. You cannot go beyond that definition. But when it is includes, when it is an inclusive definition, then it is a general terms. The income definition is income includes, then we have to understand the income in an inclusive sense, in a general sense. 2 clause 24. However, what the government has done earlier, the income includes means profit and gains of business, dividend, but now they have extended the definition. Everything, every new thing, what they are being coined or any deemed incomes or deeming provisions like 56(2)(10) or 45(3), 45(2), any deeming provisions, any income specially mentioned in that section will also include. But in addition to that, if any income is there which is in the general parlance, will also be part of the total income. Now, what is the definition of total income? Total income means income referred to in section 5 and computed in accordance with the provisions of the Income Tax Act. जैसे मैंने बताया था कि टैक्सेबल इनकम या ग्रॉस टोटल इनकम नाम की कोई चीज नहीं है. 2 clause 45 gives the definition of total income. Very, very important. And this income says, this definition says, income, as I said, income 2 clause 24 में income होनी चाहिए पहली बार. सेक्शन 5 के हिसाब से आपने कंप्यूट करनी है. Why this section 5 is so important? Because this section 5 gives the scope of the total income. In case of resident, as you know, we have three kinds of resident structure. One is the resident, another is the resident and resident and ordinary resident. Another is a resident but not ordinary resident. Resident are of two kinds: ordinary resident and not ordinary resident, and another is non-resident. In case of resident, because in general sense we say, in case of resident, any income, he has to pay tax on the global income, meaning that any income that accrue or arise in India or deemed to accrue or arise in India, received in India or deemed to received in India, he has to pay tax on that. And any income which is accrue or arise to him outside India, he has to pay tax on that also. For resident person, रेजिडेंट के लिए सारी इनकम पर टैक्सेबल है. सिर्फ एक चीज उसकी एग्जेम्प्ट है. इफ द इनकम इज रिसीव्ड आउट ऑफ इंडिया, इट डज नॉट एक्रू और अराइज इन इंडिया, बट इट इज रिसीव्ड आउट ऑफ इंडिया, then it will not be taxable in his hands. Otherwise, all the incomes, all the global incomes will be taxable in case of resident. And in case of non-resident, only that income which accrue or arise or deemed to accrue or arise or deemed to receive in India, that will be taxable in case of non-resident. And in case of not ordinary resident, in case of not ordinary resident, in addition to that, in addition to non-resident income, he will be taxable only for that part if the income is from a business controlled from India, if or a profession set up in India. Three kinds of persons, three kinds of assessee: resident and ordinary resident. Ordinary resident has to pay tax on all the incomes, whether accrue in India, accrue or arise in India, receive in India, deemed to accrue in India, deemed to rise in India, deemed to receive in India, accrue or arise out of India. He has to pay tax. But in case of non-resident, he has to pay tax only on that part of income which is accrue, arise, or deemed to accrue, arise, or received in India. But in case of not ordinary resident, because not ordinary resident is a resident of a special kind, I will come when I will discuss section 6. So he will be taxed like non-resident, but In addition to it, two more income will be chargeable in his hand. One is if any income from a business which is controlled from India, or another is a income from a profession which is set up in India. For example, you are a chartered accountant, you have a membership of ICAI, and you go to London, give a seminar there, or give some professional work there. The income is being received out of India. It deemed to it accrues out of India, and you are not ordinary resident. In that case, that income will be taxable in your hand. Simple. Any question? You can write in the chat box, please. Or if you have any question, you can raise your hand also, है ना?
Yes, sir.
हाँ, मतलब if friends, if you have any questions, you can raise your hand because it is going to be an interactive session.
They can unmute themselves also one by one. If one
you can unmute yourself also.
But if it is one participant, not more than one, because then it will create a noise. So they can unmute themselves. It's a small group, only 26 participants, so they can unmute also.
Sir, I am not able to send the message.
Vipin, do you have any question, please?
विपिन जी मैसेज में मैं चेक करता हूँ आप क्यों नहीं मैसेज कर पा रहे. I'll check. कोई मैसेज नहीं कर पा रहा तो वो व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप में डाल दे. व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप के अंदर सब डाल सकते हैं. तो अगर यहाँ पर चैट बॉक्स में नहीं लिख पा रहे विपिन जी, तो आप यहाँ पर अपने व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप में डाल दीजिए.
Okay. Now we come to very important part of the discussion, that is residential status. This Finance Act 2020 has
not ordinary resident status when to be considered.
हाँ, अभी आ रहा हूँ, उसी पे आ रहा हूँ सर, उसी पे आ रहा हूँ राजन जी, उसी पे आ रहा हूँ. This Finance Act 2020 has changed the residential status. Major changes has been done. लेकिन अगर हम उसको लमसम में समझे, बहुत कुछ चेंज हुआ, लेकिन 2-3 बार चेंज हुआ. फाइनेंस बिल जब आया जब कुछ था, उसके बाद में जब फाइनेंस एक्ट आया तो चेंज हुआ. देखिए अल्टीमेटली जो चेंज हुआ है, दैट इज चेंज इन द डेफिनेशन ऑफ नॉट ऑर्डिनरी रेजिडेंट. अभी तक स्टेटस क्या था सर? अभी तक स्टेटस ये था, ए पर्सन हु इज टू बी रेजिडेंट इफ इज इन इंडिया फॉर 182 डेज और मोर. दो कंडीशंस में से एक आप कोई भी पूरी कर लीजिए. अगर आप 182 दिन से ज्यादा हिंदुस्तान में हैं, या पिछले साल में प्रीवियस ईयर में 60 डेज से ज्यादा आप हिंदुस्तान में थे, और उससे पिछले 4 सालों में 365 डेज से ज्यादा आप हिंदुस्तान में थे, तो यू आर रेजिडेंट इन इंडिया. रेजिडेंट इन इंडिया. उसमें 2 एक्सेप्शन थे. एक एक्सेप्शन ये था, इफ यू आर इंडियन सिटीजन and you are going out of India for employment, then this condition of 60 days is being replaced by 182 days. मतलब अगर आप विदेश जा रहे हैं और एम्प्लॉयमेंट के लिए जा रहे हैं, नॉट फॉर स्टडी, फॉर एम्प्लॉयमेंट मीन सेल्फ एम्प्लॉयमेंट और एम्प्लॉयमेंट, तो 60 दिन की जगह आप 182 दिन भी हिंदुस्तान में रहेंगे, तब भी आपका स्टेटस जो है वो चेंज नहीं होगा. दूसरा, द सेकंड कंडीशन वाज, if you are a person of Indian origin and you come to India, then also you were given a chance to stay in India up to 181 days. A person who is a resident के लिए आप 2 में से एक कंडीशन आपको पूरी करनी थी. या तो आप 182 दिन से 12 हिंदुस्तान में हो, या पिछले साल में you are in India for 60 days and 365 days in the previous 4 years. But 2 exceptions was there. Now these 2 exceptions जो थे, उसमें से एक एक्सेप्शन को चेंज किया है, और डेफिनेशन में नॉन रेजिडेंट इंडियन की डेफिनेशन को चेंज किया है. प्लीज अंडरस्टैंड, ओनली 2 कंडीशंस हैज बीन एडेड इन द definition of non resident Indian. As I said, resident are of 2 kinds. One is resident and ordinary resident, and another is resident but not ordinary resident. To become a not ordinary resident, then you have to fulfill 2 additional conditions. You were supposed to fulfill 2 additional conditions. You should be non-resident out 9 out of 10 previous years, and in the previous 7 years, your stay in India should be less than 729 days. These were the conditions. अगर आप हिंदुस्तान में 729 दिन से कम थे और 10 में से 9 साल आप नॉन रेजिडेंट थे, तो आप रेजिडेंट थे बट नॉट ऑर्डिनरी रेजिडेंट थे. अदरवाइज आप रेजिडेंट एंड ऑर्डिनरी रेजिडेंट होंगे. और अगर आप इस कंडीशन पूरा नहीं करते हैं तो 2 clause 30 सेज नॉन रेजिडेंट इज हु इज नॉट ए रेजिडेंट इन इंडिया. जैसे मैंने बताया सेक्शन 5 में सारा फर्क है कि आपकी इनकम कौन सी आपकी टैक्सेबल होगी, कौन सी नहीं. बट 2 कंडीशंस नाउ हैज बीन एडेड इन द नॉन रेजिडेंट स्टेटस. लोग कर क्या रहे थे, इंडिया 181 दिन से कम आते थे पर्सन ऑफ इंडियन ओरिजिन, बिजनेस यहां पर करते थे, और वो फॉरेन इनकम या जो इनकम जो एक्रू होती थी उनकी वो टैक्सेबल नहीं होती थी. जो बिजनेस सेटअप इन इंडिया थे या प्रोफेशन सेटअप इन इंडिया थे. देखिए, अगर इंडिया में कोई इनकम कमाते हैं, इंडिया में कोई इनकम आपकी एक्रू अराइज और रिसीव होती है, वो तो बाय डिफॉल्ट टैक्सेबल है इन केस ऑफ नॉन रेजिडेंट ऑल्सो और एनओआर ऑल्सो, रेजिडेंट ऑल्सो. लेकिन जो लोग इंडिया में 181 दिन, पर्सन ऑफ इंडियन ओरिजिन जो 181 दिन तक आते थे, उनकी वो इनकम भी टैक्सेबल नहीं कर पाते थे हम, जो कि इनकम विच इज फ्रॉम द बिजनेस विच इज कंट्रोल्ड फ्रॉम इंडिया और प्रोफेशन सेटअप इन इंडिया. अब क्या कहा है, अब ये कंडीशन चेंज कर दिया कि इफ द इनकम फ्रॉम फॉरेन सोर्सेज is not more than 15 lakhs. Foreign sources वही income which is from a business control in India और professional setup in India. तो आप 119 दिन तक अगर आएंगे then you will be non-resident. अगर आप 120 दिन से ज्यादा आएंगे और 181 दिन तक आएंगे, यानी 120 से और 181 दिन तक, then you will be not ordinary resident. और अगर आप 181 दिन से ज्यादा आएंगे then you will become the resident. तो फर्स्ट चेंज इज दिस. बड़ा सिंप्लीफाई बता रहा हूं सर. जितने भी सारे ये झगड़े हुए, यानी नट सेल में चेंज सिर्फ नॉट ऑर्डिनरी रेजिडेंट की डेफिनेशन को हुआ है, और उसका कारण ये था कि जो लोग पर्सन ऑफ इंडियन ओरिजिन थे वो अपने नॉन रेजिडेंट स्टेटस को मेंटेन रखते थे और बिजनेस इंडिया में करते थे या बिजनेस बाहर करते थे जो कि इंडिया से कंट्रोल होता था, या प्रोफेशन जो सेटअप फ्रॉम इंडिया था और उस पर टैक्स नहीं देते थे, उसको चेंज कर दिया. अब उसको 182 दिन से 181 दिन से 119 दिन, यानी 119 दिन से अगर आप क्रॉस कर जाएंगे देन यू विल बिकम नॉट ऑर्डिनरी रेजिडेंट. और नॉट ऑर्डिनरी रेजिडेंट बनेंगे देन यू हैव टू पे टैक्स ऑन दैट इनकम व्हिच इज बिजनेस कंट्रोल फ्रॉम इंडिया एंड प्रोफेशन सेटअप फ्रॉम इंडिया. प्लीज अंडरस्टैंड द डिफरेंस. अनदर चेंज इज सेक्शन 6(1) capital A, where the concept of deemed resident Indian has been inducted by this Finance Act 2020. And what is the deemed residency status? Again, the statute has used the word Indian citizen. लोग कर क्या रहे थे, इंडियन सिटीजन्स टैक्स हेवन कंट्रीज में जाके नॉन रेजिडेंट बन जाते थे, वहां की आपने रेजिडेंसी ले ली और बिजनेस आपका इंडिया से कंट्रोल हो रहा है या इंडिया से प्रोफेशन सेटअप है और आप टैक्स नहीं दे रहे हैं. तो डीम्ड रेजिडेंसी में कहा, एंड नाउ द डीम्ड रेजिडेंट विल नॉट बी अ ऑर्डिनरी रेजिडेंट. प्लीज अंडरस्टैंड, अगर आप डीम्ड रेजिडेंट बन रहे हैं 6(1)(a) से, तो यू विल नेवर बी अ ऑर्डिनरी रेजिडेंट, यू विल बी अ नॉट ऑर्डिनरी रेजिडेंट ओनली. यानी फिर वही बात कि अगर आपकी फॉरेन सोर्स इनकम 15 लाख रुपए से ज्यादा है एंड यू आर लिविंग इन ए कंट्री where you are not liable to pay tax due to domicile or due to residency or due to anything else, then again you will be deemed to be a not ordinary resident. Not resident की बात नहीं कर रहे, वो not ordinary resident हो गया, यानी उस इंसान को, उस एसएससी को उस इनकम पर टैक्स देना होगा जो कि बिजनेस कंट्रोल फ्रॉम इंडिया है और प्रोफेशनल सेटअप फ्रॉम इंडिया है। इफ यू हैव एनी क्वेश्चंस यू कैन प्लीज आस्क। Megha Agarwal, sir, in Form 16 Part B, there is gross total income. However, as per you, it is not there. Please clarify. Thank you. देखिए, मैंने जैसे बताया था सर, इट इज ए जनरल टर्म्स. इफ यू सी द इनकम टैक्स एक्ट, ग्रॉस टोटल इनकम इज नॉट डिफाइंड एनीवेयर. बट टोटल इनकम का जब हम टोटल ग्रॉस कर लेते हैं हेड वाइज, यानी इनकम फ्रॉम सैलरी, सारी इनकम को जोड़ लेते हैं, तो उसको हम ग्रॉस टोटल इनकम जनरल टर्म्स में कह देते हैं उसको. यू कैन से इट एज ए इनकम. एंड टोटल इनकम इज, जैसे मैंने बताया था 2 क्लॉज 41 में कहा है कि दैट इज आफ्टर गिवन कंप्यूटेशन एज पर द प्रोविजंस गिवन, यानी आफ्टर सेट ऑफ द कैरी फॉरवर्ड ऑफ लॉसेज एंड आफ्टर डिडक्शन ऑफ इनकम ऑन विच यू आर deemed to pay tax, that is total income. Of course it is a general term written there, form 16 में होगा, मुझे नहीं पता. लेकिन gross total income means when you add the total incomes, head wise income, in general terms we say it is a gross total income, but the term is not defined in the income tax act.
Thank you, sir.
Any question, please? Sir, can we get a summarized chart on the residential status? Okay, sir, I will send, sir. I will give you a. देखिए राजन जी, मैं जैसे बताया, इतने सारे कंफ्यूजन्स हैं, उसको मैंने बड़ी सिंप्लीफाई किया. दिस फाइनेंस एक्ट 2020 हैज चेंज द डेफिनेशन ऑफ नॉट ऑर्डिनरी रेजिडेंट ओनली. अगर हम इस बात को समझ जाएंगे ना, सारी चीज समझ जाएंगे. और 2 लोगों के लिए चेंज किया था. वन, जो एक्सप्लेनेशन एक्सेप्शन में दे रखा था, a person of Indian origin who visits India, now he can maintain the status of a non-resident only if he comes to India and stay there for 119 days. But if his income from foreign sources means why business control from India and professional setup in India, then after 120 days and up to 181 days, he will be not ordinary resident. नॉट ऑर्डिनरी रेजिडेंट में भी क्या होता है सर, कि आपकी फॉरेन इनकम पे टैक्स नहीं होता, केवल आपकी इंडियन इनकम प्लस इनकम कंट्रोल्ड फ्रॉम इंडिया पे टैक्स लगता है. इन केस ऑफ रेजिडेंट यू हैव टू पे टैक्स ऑन द ग्लोबल इनकम. इन केस ऑफ नॉन रेजिडेंट यू पे टैक्स ऑन द इंडियन इनकम, नॉट ऑन द फॉरेन इनकम. इन केस ऑफ नॉट ऑर्डिनरी रेजिडेंट यू पे टैक्स ऑन द इंडियन इनकम, not on the foreign income, but 2 income are included in case of not ordinary resident: business control from India and professional setup from India. Simple. Similar is the case with the deemed residency 6(1) capital A. 6(1) capital A में भी यही हुआ सर, कि पहले इसको रेजिडेंट में डाल दिया था, लेकिन जब फाइनेंस एक्ट पास हुआ तो उसको नॉट ऑर्डिनरी रेजिडेंट में डाला. कहने का मतलब है कि अगर आप बाहर चले गए, आपने वहां का नॉन रेजिडेंट हो गए आप इंडिया से, लेकिन अगर आपने बिजनेस और वहां पे आप टैक्स हेवन कंट्री में, वहां पे आप टैक्स नहीं दे रहे हैं, आप ऐसे कंट्री में जहां पे यू आर नॉट लायबल टू पे टैक्स, तब आपको वो इनकम आपकी टैक्सेबल हो जाएंगी. लेकिन आपकी फॉरेन सोर्स से इनकम 15 लाख रुपए से ज्यादा होना चाहिए. फॉरेन सोर्स का मतलब वही, जैसे मैंने बताया, 2 इंक्लूड कर लिया है. अगर 15 लाख रुपए से ज्यादा है, देन यू हैव टू पे टैक्स ऑन दैट इनकम इन इंडिया. राजन जी, ये क्रू वाला जो आपने पूछा है ना, मैं आपको बताऊंगा. इसमें एक उसका डिसीजन भी है, और एक ट्रिब्यूनल का डिसीजन है, कलकत्ता ट्रिब्यूनल का आ गया कि अगर रेमिटेंस आपको एनआरई अकाउंट में आ रही है, देन इट विल बी अ नॉन रेजिडेंट स्टेटस. अगर आपका स्टेटस नॉन रेजिडेंट है, जैसे इंडियन शिप और फॉरेन शिप है, वो लंबा डिस्कशन हो जाएगा, मैं आपको बताऊंगा. आफ्टर डिस्कसिंग द रेजिडेंशियल स्टेटस, सर, another important is the exempt incomes. Section 10 gives the scope of the exemption income, and exempt incomes are not going to be the part of the total income. It is not the part of it. Is plainly exempt with some restrictions, and one of that is the 10 clause 1, that is agriculture income. Another is 10 clause 2, that is partner share in the total income. Again, there is a dispute. If there is a firm which has a deduction under Section 80 IAC or IA, the total income will be 0. Then the share from that total income, whether it will be included, whether it will be exempted or not, still there is a debate going on that. Another is, as you know, I will just mention the sanctions only. As everybody knows those sections. 10 clause 4 is interest on NRE account. If you have interest on NRE account, then it is exempt. But interest on NRO account, not on the resident or the operative account, that is taxable in India. 10 clause 5 is leave travel assistance. 10 clause 10 is gratuity received up to 20 lakhs. Earlier it was the limit was 10 lakhs. Now it is 20 lakhs. Gratuity received at the time of superannuation is exempt up to 20 lakhs. Commuted pension, encashment of leave, and 1010B is compensation on the industrial dispute. Another important is 1010D. We have certain reservation on 1010D. Generally, we think that income which is received from the insurance policies on the maturity of insurance policies are exempt, but two exceptions are there. One exception is if the insurance policy has been taken after 1st April 2012, 1 अप्रैल 2012 के बाद में आपने पॉलिसी ली है और आपका प्रीमियम 10% से ज्यादा है सम एश्योर्ड का, then that income, that maturity amount is not exempt. That is taxable. Earlier there was a dispute, the whole maturity amount will be taxable or only the difference will be taxable, but the government has not clarified it. But in section 192D, I think, now they have said the TDS has to be deducted on the differential amount. मतलब जो आपको डिफरेंस बोनस का मिल रहा है उस पे पहले जैसे पहले टोटल मैच्योरिटी पे 1 या 2% TDS था, अब 5% TDS है. In case in those policy where the sum assured, the premium is more than 10%, that maturity amount is not taxable. Similar is the case with the Keyman insurance policy. If anything in a maturity amount is received on Keyman insurance policy, whether by the company or by the employee, that is also not exempt. Otherwise, the income from insurance policy maturity is exempt under section 1010D. Any payment from the provident fund is exempt. But as you know, if the continuous service is less than 5%, 5 years of the continuous service, then it is not exempt, it is taxable. Withdrawals from NPS, then 10 clause 12, now up to 60% it is exempt, and for the balance 40% you have to take a annuity plan. House rent allowance, as I said, there are 5 heads of income. I already explained, and we will have detailed discussion of each and every head of income in our incoming webinars. Another is revocable transfers, section 60 to 63. As you know, friends, if the transfer is revocable, I will discuss in detail when I will come to private trust. अगर आपका revocable transfer है, then the income is clubbed in the hands of the transferor only. In case of private trust, if the transfer is irrevocable, only then the income will be taxable in the hands of the trust, or in case of charitable trust, the transfer is irrevocable. Otherwise, revocable transfer is being taxed in the hands of the transferor only. Clubbing of income. I am not getting questions from the audience. As I said, better if you ask me questions.
Sir, a question I have. What about tax on global income raised through social media? What about tax on global income? ये Mr. Vipin Raj ने raise किया है. Vipin Raj Dutt. What about tax on global income raised through social media?
सर देखिए, आप एक सेक्शन 56(2)(10) अगर आप पढ़ेंगे तो एनी अमाउंट रिसीव्ड विदाउट कंसीडरेशन इज टैक्सेबल। अभी बहुत सारे लोग फेसबुक पे या इस पर सोशल मीडिया पर आपने बहुत सारी डोनेशंस लेते हैं। कोविड में बहुत सारी डोनेशंस लोगों ने ली हैं कि जहां पर फेसबुक पर अपील किया और पैसा आ गया। प्लीज अंडरस्टैंड, इफ यू आर नॉट ए रजिस्टर्ड सोसाइटी और ए चैरिटेबल ट्रस्ट, then that income will be taxable under section 56(2)(10) as a sum received without consideration. राजन बंसल जी ने पूछा है, सर डेथ पे अगर मिलता है तो दैट इज एग्जेम्प्ट। डेथ पे अगर आपको प्रीमियम डेथ पे तो 10(10)(d) में स्पेशल एग्जेम्पशन दे रखी है। इन केस ऑफ डेथ, इफ एनी अमाउंट रिसीव्ड ऑन द मैच्योरिटी ऑफ इंश्योरेंस पॉलिसी, देन इट इज एग्जेम्प्ट फ्रॉम द टैक्स। So we were discussing about the head of the income, then clubbing provision, section 60 to 64. 64. In case of clubbing provisions, there are three provisions. One, income of the minor. If you have transferred any asset in the name of the minor, then income will be clubbed back to the in the hands of the parent who has the higher income. In case of daughter-in-law and in case of spouse, if the income is being transferred, then it is taxable. Similar is the case with the HUF. अगर आपने HUF को गिफ्ट दिया या HUF को कोई इनकम ट्रांसफर कर दी, then it also be clubbed in the hands of the transfer only. Then as I discussed, section 60 to 69, it has to be read with section 115 BB. Friends, आज हम ओवरव्यू कर रहे हैं इनकम टैक्स एक्ट को, so that when we have different chapters, so we can discuss them in detail. Another is the deductions, various deductions under chapter 6A, that is section 80C to 80GG(C), and they are expenditure based deductions. When you spend 80C for the investments, then 80D for medical insurance, 80DD for diseases, and then income based deductions, 80IA, IB, 80 IAC deductions. In case of eligible startup, you have the continuous 3 consecutive years 100% profits are exempt. We will discuss when we will discuss startup taxation. And 89 is the relief when salary is paid in advance or in a year, so you can get the relief from the year wise relief from the income tax. Section 90 to 91, that is double taxation relief, and 95 to 102 GAR provisions now are in operation. General anti-avoidance rule. Whenever you make any planning, tax planning, please understand you have to the tax planning should be within the 4 corners of the substance of a form, within the 4 corners of the provision of the law. If any arrangement is made to avoid the tax, GAR provisions may be invoked. Chapter 12, as I said, special rate of tax. In certain, this chapter gives the special rate of tax. 111, short-term capital gain on the listed equity share at the rate of 15%. 112, long-term capital gain on the listed equity at the rate of 20%. 112A, long-term capital gain at the rate of 10% in case of listed equity or mutual funds. 115 BB, tax on the winning from lottery and racehorses. PPE, tax on the undisclosed income, as I discussed. If there is undisclosed income under section 68, 69, then you have to pay tax at the rate of 78%. There is a special chapter for NRI taxations. As I said, the tax in India depends on the residential status, but special provisions are given in section 115C to 115I. जो नॉन रेजिडेंट इंडियंस अगर वो इंडिया में आते हैं एंड इफ दे हैव एनी असेट्स which is purchased in the foreign specified assets in the foreign currency, then they have the benefit of reduced taxation. They can opt if the interest income is there at the rate of 20%, and if the capital gain is at the rate of 10% without indexation, and they can maintain their status or maintain that income at the lower rate in case of non-resident Indian. These are the special provisions given in section 115C to 115I. अदरवाइज कहीं नॉन रेजिडेंट इंडियंस के लिए कोई स्पेशल रेट नहीं है, केवल यही इस चैप्टर में है जहां पर आप, अगर आपकी स्पेसिफाइड एसेट्स हैं और फॉरेन करेंसी में आपने उसको परचेज किया है, then you can continue with the lower rate of taxation. MAT and AMT provision section 115 JC and JB. As you know, in the new provisions, new rate of taxation 115 BAA and BAB, these MAT provisions are not there, and in this budget the MAT rate has been reduced from 18.5% to 15%. So we will discuss the MAT provisions in detail during our discussions. And but friends, one thing is very important: the rate of MAT has been reduced from 18.5% to 15%, but AMT rate has not been reduced. As you know, AMT is applicable to assessee other than company. The rate is same as 18.5%, otherwise it is 15%. Then comes the, as you know, in India, there is a jurisdiction base. 116 gives the list of the income tax authorities. There are two sets of authorities starting from the CBDT and down to tax recovery officers. And for investigation, there are director of DDIT. For administration, there are PCIT, JCIT, ACIT. And until now, there was jurisdiction-based assessment, where you have to, there was a jurisdiction of the assessing officer. But this Finance Act, after the faceless appeal, now the jurisdictions has been foregone now. अब जुडिशियल कंसेप्ट खत्म कर दिया जब से फेसलेस असेसमेंट एंड फेसलेस अपील है. अब it will be jurisdiction-less. Now, what are the powers of the income tax authorities? The important powers are given in section 131, power to summon. 132 is power to search, when generally in general sanities said raid. And you know, in case of raid, the tax rates, the tax on undisclosed income can go as high as 138%. And कम से कम 108%, नहीं तो 138% तक आपका टैक्स जा सकता है in case of search. And 133 is power to call informations, 133A is power to survey, and 133B is power to collect information. Rajan Bansal ji का क्वेश्चन है, whether property sold by NRI, whether take the benefit of lower tax rate. सर बिल्कुल ले सकते हैं, of course he can take. और 197 में आप फॉर्म 13 आप फाइल कर दीजिए, और फॉर्म 13 फाइल करके आपका एक्चुअल टैक्स की आप कैलकुलेशन आप करवा सकते हैं, एंड यू कैन टेक द बेनिफिट. और 195 में एक प्रोविजन है कि ये जो बेनिफिट है, ये जो एप्लीकेशन है, आइदर इट कैन बी मेड बाय द सेलर और बाय द बायर or by their representative person. Another question is from Lakshmi Priya. If income of NRI is used by his family members and are invested into NPS in their respective names, how are the income calculated? Is it taxed on the source of income? Is there any exemption for domestic? नहीं, देखिए जैसे मैंने बताया कि हमारे यहाँ पर सबसे पहले आपको इनकम को टैक्सेबल के लिए सेक्शन 5 में आपको आना पड़ेगा, उस स्कोप ऑफ इनकम में आना पड़ेगा. सेक्शन 6 में आपका रेजिडेंशियल स्टेटस में आना पड़ेगा. अगर नॉन रेजिडेंट इंडियन है, उसने इंडिया से बाहर इनकम कमाई और उसने उसको रेमिट किया इंडिया में, तो रेमिटेंस इज नॉट इनकम रिसीव्ड इन इंडिया. आप रेमिटेंस पे आपको टैक्स नहीं होता, क्योंकि आपकी वो इनकम नहीं है जिसके पास में रेमिटेंस आई है. तो इसलिए क्वेश्चन ऑफ टैक्सेबिलिटी डज नॉट अराइज इन केस ऑफ इनकम विच इज रेमिटेड आउट ऑफ इंडिया. देखिए, अगर आपने कोई इनकम इंडिया से बाहर अर्न की और उसके बाद में रेमिट किया, तो इनकम इज रिसीव्ड आउट ऑफ इंडिया. वंस इट इज रिसीव्ड आउट ऑफ इंडिया, देन यू आर आउट ऑफ द परव्यू. your income will not be taxable. Only in that case it will be taxable. जैसे मैंने बताया था, in case of a resident Indian. But even in case of resident Indian, if the income should accrue out of India, only income received out of India will not be taxable. After income tax authorities, returns and assessment provisions are there under section 139 to 158. And then collection of recovery of taxes, where TDS provisions are there. We will have detailed discussion on the various TDS provisions, 119.2, and this year TCS provision. There are two new provisions, 206C1H and 1G, where the you have to collect tax on the sale of goods. अगर आपने सेल ऑफ गुड्स पे आपको टैक्स कलेक्ट करना है 1 अक्टूबर के बाद में, and foreign remittances. Briefly, I discussed both the provisions. 206C1H and 1G. 1H is for the sale of goods. If your turnover in the previous year is more than 10 crore and you are making a sale to a person, to a party, you are receiving payment for more than 50 lakhs rupees, then you have to collect tax on the payment received. The tax is on the payment received, sir. इस पे बड़ा confusion था कि टैक्स की इंसिडेंस कब राइज होगा, तो पेमेंट रिसीव्ड पे है, नॉट एट द टाइम ऑफ द सेल. एंड अनदर इज द रेमिटेंस, फॉरेन रेमिटेंसेस. अगर आप फॉरेन रेमिटेंस कर रहे हैं, in case of foreign remittance, if the foreign remittance is done under liberalized foreign remittance scheme, LRS scheme, then 7 lakh rupees se zyada, if you are remitting more than 7 lakh rupees, then 5% TCS will be collected. This is the new provision effective from 1st October 2020. But if the remittance is done for the education of your children and out of the education loan taken, the TCS rate is 0.5%. We will discuss it in detail in the coming webinar. Then assessee in default, very important definition, 220, read with 221. Then appeals and divisions. After the assessment, there are 4 kinds of authorities. 4 appellate forms are there in Income Tax Act. One, of course, is the CIT appeal, is the first appellate authority. Second is the ITAT, then High Court, and then Supreme Court. Why tax refund is delaying day by day? Is the government having lacking of funds? ये तो ऐसा सवाल है, इस पे हम. Then most important is penalty and prosecutions. We will discuss in detail the various penalty provisions. And friends, the department not only charges tax, but also interest, fees, penalty and prosecution. तो कल हम इसको डिस्कस करेंगे कि कहाँ कौन से वायलेशन पे पेनल्टीज आपको देनी होती है. वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट डिस्कशन विल बी देयर टुमारो, डिटेल्ड डिस्कशन ऑफ ईच एंड एवरी पेनल्टी प्रोविजन. And last is 285A BA, that is the financial reporting, annual information report. Now, let me come to the presumptive taxation scheme, 44AD, 44ADA, and 44AE. Now, 44AD is you have to pay tax, you have to calculate the profit at the rate of 6% on the amount received if by the banking channels, through the banking channels, and if not through the banking channels, then at the rate of 8%. And on what amount? Amount received to the sale consideration up to the date of the due date of filing the return of income. Now, who are the eligible assessee for 44AD? 44AD, it is applicable to individual, HUF, partnership firm, and those who are not claiming exemption under section 10AA, meaning that these provisions are not applicable to company and LLP assessee. First, 44AD. and your turnover should be less than 2 crore. Now, a new situation has been created by this act. As you know, if your turnover is less than 2 crore, and you have to declare profit at the rate of 6% or 8%, whatever is the case. But if your turnover is more than 2 crore, but below 5 crore, if your turnover is less than 2 crore and you are not declaring profit as per the provision, then you have to go for the tax audit. But if your provisions are, if your sale is more than 2 crore, but below 5 crore, and you do not fall in the proviso to 44AB, जहां पर आपका 5% का कंडीशन है कि आपकी कैश एक्सपेंडिचर और कैश रिसीट और कैश पेमेंट आपकी 5% से कम है, then no audit is required. Very interesting situation has been created by this budget. Now 44AD is for those assessee whose income, whose turnover is up to 2 crore. 2 crore तक अगर आपकी turnover है, then this section is applicable. And the most important thing is that this is not applicable for the in case of LLP and the company SSE. And which business is covered? 44AD is applicable to all the businesses, but not to the business of 44A. Of course, 44ADA will not be covered. Agency and commission business will be, they have the exemption. And in case of 44AD, if you choose to come out of the scheme, आपने एक साल 44AD में डिक्लेयर किया प्रॉफिट और उसके बाद नेक्स्ट ईयर अगर आपने नॉर्मल प्रॉफिट में आ गया, यानी आपने प्रॉफिट कम डिक्लेयर किया 6% से और आप नॉर्मल प्रोविजन चले गए, यानी आपने टैक्स ऑडिट करवा लिया, देन यू आर डीबार फ्रॉम इट फॉर द नेक्स्ट 5 years. आप अगले 5 साल तक इसमें नहीं आ सकते. सेकेंड इज, इफ यू आर डिक्लेयरिंग प्रॉफिट as per the provision of section 1 of 44AD, then no audit or no books of accounts. मतलब इसमें कंफ्यूजन ये है कि whether books of accounts are required to be maintained. If we read section 44AA, 44AA में तो नहीं कहा कि आपको बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट्स मेंटेन नहीं करने हैं, इस पे भी नहीं कहा, पर इनडायरेक्टली है कि इफ यू आर नॉट सपोज्ड टू गेट द अकाउंट्स ऑडिटेड. इन केस ऑफ पार्टनरशिप फॉर्म, अर्लियर देयर वाज ए प्रोविजन, अगर आप 44AD में डिक्लेयर कर रहे हैं, देन द इंटरेस्ट, पार्टनर एंड सैलरी वर सपोज्ड टू बी अलाउड, बट नाउ दिस प्रोविजन हैज बीन गॉन अवे विद. आपको पार्टनर सैलरी एंड interest is not allowed under section 44AD. You have to declare 8% or 6% of the turnover, no further deduction. But in case of 44AE business, अगर आप 44AE में declare कर रहे हैं partnership firm को, then you can get the deduction under section 44B of salary as given to restriction of 40B, interest and salary as per section 40B, you can get the deduction. Any question of 44AD, please?
सर, अगर कोई जैसे कोई मान लीजिए कोई शॉप चला रहा है, अब वो एक तरह से सोल प्रोप्राइटरशिप भी है, इंडिविजुअल भी है, तो उसके लिए 44AD लगेगा?
हाँ, बिल्कुल लग जाएगा सर, बिल्कुल तो लगेगा.
जितना भी रिसीट हुआ उसका 6% वो टैक्स देगा?
हाँ जी, हाँ, जितना रिसीट्स है उसका 6% उसका प्रॉफिट माना जाएगा. अगर बैंकिंग चैनल से है, बैंकिंग चैनल से अगर ट्रांजेक्शन किया आपने, उसका 6%. अगर आपने कैश में ट्रांजेक्शन किया तो उसका 8%. और इन केस ऑफ रिसीट, जो मैंने बताया, जो आपने रिसीट आपने कर लिया 139(1) में, आपने सेल टर्नओवर मान लो 31 मार्च तक की और उसके बाद में आपने रिसीट कर लिया, द रिसीट विल बी कैलकुलेटेड एट द रेट ऑफ 6%.
Noted, sir. Noted.
44ADA is for professionals, but please understand, हम बहुत बड़ी गलती करते हैं. 44ADA is for those professionals which are mentioned under section 44AA. अगर कोई टीचर है तो he is not professionals. Professionals are being given there in 44AD, 44AA, and 44ADA is applicable for those only. Chartered accountants, company secretary, lawyers, interior decorators, those professionals are covered only, and you have to declare 50% of the receipt as income, and this section is applicable only up to a receipt of 50 lakhs only. 50 lakh रुपए तक receipts है. And one more important, but very important thing, unlike 44AD, जहाँ 44AD में अगर एक बार आप बाहर चले गए तो 5 साल के लिए आप उसमें वापस नहीं आ सकते हैं. लेकिन 44 ADA में ऐसा प्रोविजन नहीं है। उसमें आप कर सकते हैं, एक बार यहाँ रहिए, एक बार बाहर चले जाइए, फिर एक बार आइए, फिर बाहर चले जाइए। And if the profit is declared is less than 50% of the receipt, then of course you have to get the accounts audited. So, provided if your income, total income is less than 2.5 lakh rupees, that the maximum amount is not chargeable to tax, then of course accounts and auditing is not required in case of 44 ADA. And in both the provisions, 44 ADA and 44 ADA, Section 30 to 38 deductions are deemed to be allowed. Depreciation are deemed to be allowed. You
सर
have
एक
to
क्वेश्चन है, जे आपने कहा कि वो इस सेक्शन में नहीं, अगर जो फैकल्टी है उसे गेस्ट लेक्चर फी मिलती है तो उसको कितना पोर्शन लेना है उसका इन टर्म्स ऑफ हिज इनकम? आई मीन
देखिए, इसमें एक और बड़ा लोगों को कंफ्यूजन है सर, मैं बताता हूँ आपको, कि लोग ये समझते हैं कि हमने 50% की इनकम दिखा दी। देखिए, अगर आप सेक्शन को ध्यान से पढ़ते हैं तो उसमें लिखा हुआ है 50% ऑफ द ग्रॉस रिसीट और सच सम एज डिक्लेयर्ड बाय द असेसी। मैं उसमें एक चीज और जोड़ देता हूं, और एक्चुअल प्रॉफिट। इफ योर एक्चुअल प्रॉफिट्स आर मोर देन दैट, फॉर एग्जांपल इफ यू आर अ डॉक्टर, जनरली जितने बड़े हॉस्पिटल्स हैं वो क्या करते हैं कि डॉक्टर्स को हायर करते हैं, और डॉक्टर्स को हायर करते हैं उसमें वो 10% का TDS काट रहे हैं एज ए कंसल्टेंट। अभी डॉक्टर्स के पास में क्या होता है कि उसको 40 लाख रुपए मिला हॉस्पिटल से, 40 लाख रुपए मिला, हमने 50% उसकी इनकम दिखा दी 22.5 लाख रुपए। सर दिस इज रॉन्ग। रीजन बीइंग दैट, अगर मान लो उसने 45 लाख में खर्चा ही 5 लाख किया और 40 लाख उसके अकाउंट में है, ध्यान से सुनने वाली बात है, तो यू हैव टू डिक्लेयर 40 lakhs एज द इनकम। अदरवाइज अगर आपने डिक्लेयर नहीं किया, मान लीजिए आपने 45 लाख रुपए पे 25 लाख रुपए इनकम डिक्लेयर कर दी और उसका 45 लाख उसके अकाउंट में था, तो सर जो 20 लाख रुपए होगा दैट विल बी टैक्सेबल एट द रेट ऑफ 78%। वो इनकम अनडिस्क्लोज्ड इनकम में चला जाएगा। ये बहुत बड़ी मिस्टेक हम करते हैं प्रोफेशनल्स, स्पेशली मैंने डॉक्टर्स के केस में देखा है, तो जितने बड़े हॉस्पिटल्स हैं वो डॉक्टर्स को हायर करते हैं एज ए कंसल्टेंट। तो इसलिए आपको ये ध्यान रखना है कि 44 ADA में या 44 AD में, इफ योर एक्चुअल प्रॉफिट्स आर मोर देन दैट, अगर मान लो आपका 40% प्रॉफिट है तो यू हैव टू डिक्लेयर 40%। 8% दिखाने से काम नहीं चलेगा, क्योंकि आप उसमें 68, 69 में चले जाएंगे अदरवाइज। एंड इन केस ऑफ 44A, very important discussion, 44A is first of all is applicable to all the assessees, not for the individual or HC of a partnership firm. It is applicable to all the assessees. You should own that truck. You should be the owner of that truck. आपने लैटिंग पे अगर ट्रक लिए हैं तो this provision are not applicable. Third, you should own less than 10 trucks. Another is हैवी व्हीकल्स है तो 1000 रुपीज पर टन होगा। अगर इनके हैवी व्हीकल्स नहीं है तो it will be 7,500 per month. But in case of heavy vehicles, the term used are gross vehicle weight or unladen weight. ग्रॉस व्हीकल वेट और अनलेडन वेट। लेकिन सर क्या होता है कि जब आप ट्रक की RC देखते हैं, रजिस्ट्रेशन सर्टिफिकेट देखते हैं, तो उसमें दोनों चीज लिखी होती है, अनलेडन वेट भी लिखा होता है और ग्रॉस व्हीकल वेट भी लिखा होता है। तो कौन सा लेना है, कौन सा लेना है? मान लीजिए एक ट्रक है, उसका अनलेडन वेट है 9,000 टन और उसका ग्रॉस व्हीकल वेट है 25,000 टन। तो अगर आप 9,000 टन लेंगे फिर तो आपने 1,000 रुपए पर टन लिया, उसका काम हो गया। पर सर अनलेडन वेट और ग्रॉस व्हीकल वेट में, अनलेडन वेट स्पेसिफाइड व्हीकल्स के लिए एक सर्कुलर में, CVD का सर्कुलर है, वहां पे मेंशन्ड है कि किन किन केस में आपको अनलेडन वेट लेना है। जनरली उस केस में जहां अर्थ मूवर्स है या जहां पे अटैच्ड ट्रॉली है, ट्रक्स के केस में ऐसा नहीं है, वहां पे आपको ग्रॉस व्हीकल वेट ही लेना होगा। हम सब लोग बड़ी गलतियां करते हैं इसमें, हम उसका अनलेडन और ग्रॉस व्हीकल में से जो कम होता है उसको चुन लेते हैं, बट दिस इज नॉट द केस विद 44AE। एंड एज आई सेड, इन केस ऑफ 44AE, अनलाइक 44AD, if you are a partnership firm, plying and hiring and leasing of truck business is there, then of course you can have separate deduction. After the deduction, you can have deduction for the partner salary as per the partnership deed and interest also. And the most important thing is that in case of 44AE, turnover limit नहीं है। आपने 10 ट्रक से मान लो 10 ट्रक से कम आपके पास है और आपको 15 करोड़ की रिसीट्स भी हैं, even then you can opt for the 44AE. No limit are there for turnover limits are there. Unlike 44AD, if you cross 2 crore, then you are out of the scheme. In 44ADA, if you cross 50 lakhs, you are out of the scheme. But in 44AE, there is no turnover limit. Only number of trucks matters. But please understand, in case of trucks, if gross vehicle weight is there, then you have to take gross vehicle weight. और बड़ा उसमें confusion, बड़ा उसमें difference आ जाता है tax का. And I think these were the overview. Today we covered mainly the head of the incomes, residential status, scope of total income, chapter wise classifications, and why the chapters are placed like that. जैसे जैसे प्लेस किए हैं, जो बताने का पर्पस था, जैसे जैसे प्लेस किए हैं चैप्टर्स को, उसी तरह से हमको पढ़ना है. वो एक रिदम में है. अगर पेनल्टी है तो असेसमेंट के बाद पेनल्टी दी है कि पहले पेनल्टी असेसमेंट करवा लीजिए तो पेनल्टी है. तो इस तरह से आपको रिदम में उस एक्ट को हम पढ़ेंगे अगले 7 दिनों तक. एंड इफ यू हैव एनी क्वेश्चन देन यू कैन प्लीज आस्क.
आई थिंक मिस्टर संजय को कोई क्वेश्चन था, वो बार हाथ उठा रहे थे. प्लीज आस्क.
हाँ संजय भाई बताइए प्लीज.
सर आई एम डॉक्टर संजय पटेल फ्रॉम सेंट्रल यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ राजस्थान. सर मेरा क्वेश्चन प्रिजुम्पटिव टैक्सेशन 44 AD से ही था. क्या हम कंटिन्यूअसली शिफ्टिंग कर सकते हैं कि कभी नॉर्मल टैक्स प्रोविजन में चले जाएं, कभी
नहीं कर सकते. मैंने बताया कि अगर आपने एक बार आउट हुए तो 5 साल के लिए आप आउट हो जाएंगे. आप 5 साल बाद
केवल मतलब
आपने 1920 में 44 AD में दिखाया, 2021 में आपने उसको 44 AD से बाहर आ गए, तो 5 साल तक आप 44 AD से बाहर रहेंगे. आपको टैक्स अवॉइड करवाना होगा. फिर 5 साल बाद आपका जब ब्लॉक खत्म हो जाएगा, देन यू कैन चूज. If a lawyer had gross receipts that 50 lakhs,
thank you sir,
and he wants to go for normal ITR, can he go for it? He wants to show profit less than 50% और gross receipts are also not true. देखिए मैडम, आप ना एक तो हम सारे प्रोफेशनल एक बहुत बड़ी गलती करते हैं. हम कहते हैं प्रॉफिट कितना शो करना है. इस टर्म को अपने दिमाग से निकाल दीजिए, कितना शो करना है. आप ये देखिए प्रॉफिट है कितना, व्हाट इज द एक्चुअल प्रॉफिट. मैंने अभी आपको एक बात बताई थी सर कि 44 AD और 44 AA को अगर आप पढ़ेंगे तो कॉन्ट्राडिक्शन है. 44 AA में जो टर्नओवर की लिमिट्स हैं, 2.5 लाख प्रॉफिट, 10 लाख की टर्नओवर, उसके बाद में आपको बुक्स 1,20,000, 2.5 लाख का टर्नओवर, वहां पे आपको बुक्स मेंटेन करनी है सर. 44 AD ये नहीं कहता कि आपको बुक्स मेंटेन नहीं करनी, कहीं भी नहीं लिखा हुआ, नेगेटिवली लिखा हुआ है इस बात को. फिर दूसरे एक्ट में अगर प्रोविजंस में अगर जीएसटी में आप बुक्स मेंटेन कर रहे हैं तो यू हैव टू मेंटेन द बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट. देयर इज स्टिल अ डिबेट कि वेदर ही कैन कॉल फॉर द बुक्स. और अगर मान लीजिए वहां पे आपके सर्वे हो गया, सर्च होगी, बुक्स मिल जाती हैं, तो क्या 68 में एडिशन हो सकता है? सर बिल्कुल हो सकता है. आपने 44 AD में दिखाया प्रॉफिट 8% और आपके यहाँ बुक्स मिल गई और उसमें आपको एडिशन, अगर आपको अनडिस्क्लोज्ड इनकम आ गई तो 115 BBE में जाएगा सर, वो फिर 68 में टैक्सेबल हो जाएगा. तो एक्चुअल प्रॉफिट की बात कीजिए, प्रॉफिट शो करने की बात ना कीजिए. If turnover is up to 2 crore, can we go for normal provision, not opting 44 AD and showing profit below 6%? Of course we can go, sir, Rajan ji, but we have to go for the tax audit. जैसे मैंने बताया कि there is a contradiction and this contradiction has reason due to this budget only, कि अगर आप 2 करोड़ से ज्यादा हैं तो और आप प्रॉफिट कम दिखाते हैं 6% से, फिर तो आपको टैक्स ऑडिट नहीं करवाना. लेकिन अगर 2 करोड़ से कम है तो 44 AD से के प्रोविजन में आपको टैक्स ऑडिट करवाना पड़ेगा. ये एक अनोमली है, हमने बोला है कि ये अनोमली को दूर कीजिए. And so today we discussed the theme of the taxation, what is Finance Act, what is Finance Bill, and what is the residential status, what is scope of total income, important definitions, head income, headwise incomes, and penalty provisions, how they will operate, then assessment procedures. We will discuss in detail कि assessment procedure क्या होता है या revisions application क्या होंगी. So I think it's 8.
Sir, thank you, sir. Thank you for such an informative session. It was indeed my pleasure to meet you at NewsX channel, and we have been in touch with each other. And I hope all the participants.
But I will request all the participants, please understand the motive of this course is not to give lecture to you. You are all learned people. What I will say, I will speak less, I will ask more, and I expect you to ask questions so then we can discuss the questions, we can discuss the problems. So tomorrow we will discuss Vivad Se Vishwas and penalty provisions. If you have any questions, please post on the WhatsApp group so that we can answer them. I will give the outline of the topic, because if we go into detail, तो सर 1.5 घंटे में ये टॉपिक्स कवर नहीं हो सकते, क्योंकि एक एक टॉपिक के लिए 2-2 घंटे चाहिए. तो हम लोग जैसे विवाद से विश्वास में आउटलाइन में जाएंगे, पेनल्टी प्रोविजंस कहाँ पे लगते हैं, इंटरेस्ट 234 ए बी सी का इंटरेस्ट क्या है, 220 का इंटरेस्ट क्या है, फी क्या है, कब लगती है, और पेनल्टीज कहाँ पे लगती हैं, कहाँ पे इम्यूनिटी है, वो हम कल डिस्कस करेंगे. तो प्लीज आस्क योर क्वेश्चंस so that we can discuss them. So thank you friend for joining this webinar.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
And if you have any suggestion, you please give me on my WhatsApp number or in the WhatsApp group. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. The lecture is over. Now all can exit. Thank you.